What is the function of a constitution? When we turn to the constitutional sunnah, we get the answer. A constitution is needed when you have different people who want to come to live together. Then you need a constitution. If you have only one homogeneous people who have a law of their own, you do not need a constitution. Their law is sufficient for them. It is when you have different people who want to live together as an ummah, a community, only then do you need a constitution. Forget what comes from Oxford and Cambridge and Sorbonne. Listen to the Sunnah. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam recognized the diversity of the population of Medina. He recognized that there were different Jewish tribes. Some of them at war with each other. There were different pagan Arab tribes. And then there were those who had become Muslim. And then there were the Muhajirun from Mecca. And when he arrived in Medina, guess what he did? Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam spent about 7 months in patient negotiation. Not in a constitutional conference on the stage of history with debates going on in public. That's not wise. No. He entered into private discussions with each of the different tribes, each of the different groups, and negotiated a consensus. You cannot have a constitution without consensus. Ikhwan, constitutions are not established with referendums. You do not establish a constitution with an election. What nonsense. In order for a constitution to be established, you must have consensus. The Christians walked out of the constitution discussions in Egypt, and you still went ahead with it? Have you forgotten the Sunnah? Have you forgotten the Sunnah? Is this the example you are setting for the rest of the world of Islam? There are voices around the world today cautioning you for your recklessness. We hope and pray you will not be offended by our words, that you will still consider us to be your brothers, and that you will heed our advice and warning. We apologize to the Christians of Egypt. Yes, we apologize to you, because this is an embarrassment for us. This is not the way. This is reckless, and this is misguided. It was after 7 months of patient negotiations that Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam finally succeeded in forging a consensus of that on which there was agreement, minimum agreement, amongst all the units of the state, people who constituted a polity, who wanted to live together. And thus came the first written constitution in the world, the Mithaq of Medina. Is it that you have forgotten that Mithaq? How it was established? Had I been Egyptian, I would never vote in the referendum. Never. And I urge all those in Egypt who are in agreement with my views, no, we will never vote in any referendum for Sharia, because that's a departure from the wise and enlightened Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Rather, you have to engage in patient negotiations with wisdom. Something in short supply today, isn't it? With wisdom, to try to bring about a consensus. And that consensus will give you your constitution. The Zionists will never want you to succeed in that effort. One more statement on Sharia. I said that I am also one of those, like many in Egypt, who believe that the enforcement of Sharia today, given the abject failure of our ulama, can lead us to great difficulties and embarrassments. And we want to see the Sharia enforced only on those who accept the Sharia. And that the enforcement of the sheer Sharia should lead to the emergence of an enlightened ulama who will be able to respond to the fitna, the unprecedented fitna of this age. What we want to say about the Sharia is this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to call people to the way of Allah with wisdom. ادعوا إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة. Is this wisdom? Is this the way to impress upon the Egyptian people that you are rushing through a constitution and a referendum within a short span of time? Is this wisdom? No, it's not. Well, then what is wisdom? Let me tell you what is wisdom. Wisdom is that you will enforce the Sharia as a parallel system of law in Egypt, alongside whatever rival systems of law there may be. But you have to demonstrate the superiority of the Sharia over all rival systems of law. No. You do not stamp out the others. Let the civil law continue. Let other systems of law that other people may choose continue to operate. And you have to demonstrate with your enforcement of the Sharia that you have a superior system of law which can outshine every rival. You can't do that unless you produce the scholars of law. And law does not exist in a vacuum. No. The scholar of law must also know politics and economics and monetary economics and history and the movement of history in order for him to be able to understand the complexities of today's legal system, legal challenges. And so my word of advice is that instead of enforcing the Sharia upon a people who do not want it or who are worried about how it will be applied, do it a different way. Attract them to the Sharia by operating the Sharia in such a way that it will display its evident superiority over all rivals. One last word, ikhwan. One last word. What direction, what destination are you taking Egypt to? And what destination is the world heading to? That war on Egypt is coming. And they need a justification for war. They need a casus bellum for war. They don't want to attack Egypt and appear to be aggressors. So what do they do? What do they do? to prepare the way for war on Egypt. Is Ikhwan aware of this? At the moment when Egypt should be coming together, all the different forces in Egypt should be uniting to resist the greatest threat that has ever existed in Egyptian history, the Zionist threat of an attack on Egypt. At this moment when we should be uniting our people, Ikhwan's government in Egypt has succeeded, and succeeded dramatically in dividing the people as they were never divided before. Is that wisdom? Is that the destination that you take in Egypt to? Who is smiling today with what is happening in Egypt? The answer, the Zionists are smiling. That's the answer. They want to be able to set up Egypt for the attack on Egypt. That they'll make it possible through the Arab Spring for a so-called Islamic government to come into Egypt. And then they'll help that Islamic government to take control of the military. And then they'll help that Islamic government to take control of the judiciary. So that the Islamic government is in total control of Egypt. And when the Islamic government is in total control of Egypt, and the Sharia is enforced on Egypt, and civil war comes to Egypt, they'll smile. And then they will exploit the weakness of the ulama to make the Sharia look stupid, to make the Sharia look foolish, to make the Sharia look savage and backward. And there are many ways that they can do that because of the failure of the ulama today. And then they will be able to show to the world, this is what Islam is doing in Egypt. And these people are bloodthirsty people, and they only want to cut the throat of Israel in order to be able to attack Egypt and yet not be blamed for committing aggression. Is Ikhwan going to take Egypt to that destination? I pray that these words of mine may not offend, may not hurt. I pray that these words of mine may be accepted in the spirit in which I am given them. Yes, I have used harsh language to condemn reckless and misguided behavior because the moment is now too dangerous. I pray that Egypt may step back from this pit of fire at which it now stands. The reason may prevail, good sense may prevail, and that the constitution may be established on the basis of consensus, and that the Sharia be enforced only on those who are willing to submit to the Sharia. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.